Welcome. This is MoneyHeart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing money habits for children. My guest is Ramona Rogers. She's a personal development coach and author, and she's the CEO of Ramona Rogers Enterprises. She created the company because she believes that everyone should have an opportunity to live life without limits. By creating personal development, educational tools, and resources, individuals can continuously become the best possible versions of themselves. Ramona believes that achievement and advancement should be the norm and not the exception. Ramona, welcome to Money Heart.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm so glad you're joining us, and I'm so excited about this topic of money habits for children. What a cool thing to teach. I think you've been involved in the lives and development of children for a long time. Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. I was in early childhood education for 15 years. I basically raised a lot of a lot of kids from the ages of 6 weeks to age 12. I did that for 15 years. And so to see their growth in various areas was just something that it was really awesome. A lot of those kids now are graduating from high school or in college already. So to see those kids and the effects that I was able to put into their life and display into their lives and their families' lives have been just an awesome experience for me.
I love it. That's cool. What even prompted you to get into that in the first place? Do you remember how you got started?
It wasn't by choice at first. My mother had a daycare, a home daycare, and she grew so much. She could only have like 7 to 12 kids at a time. And so there was a building that was near her, and she rented the building. She's renting the building, but never moved into the building. She stayed at home. Everybody's like, "Mom, what are you doing? What are you doing?" My mom had eight kids. So all she knew is to be a mom and a nurturer, and that was just her neck. And so many people wanted her to care for their kids. And at the time, I was having pregnant with my first daughter, and it's like the person upstairs is like saying, "Help your mother." I'm like, "No, help your mother, no." And it went on for like almost a year, and I finally just said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I did everything I could to open her center. She had ages 0 to 2 years old, and I did 2 years old to 12 years. And it started from there, and that was in 2000, 2001,
Wow.
2000, 2001. And it went from there, and it grew from there, and learning, getting involved with the kids and the things that they needed, looking at their needs, things maybe they weren't getting at home, maybe they weren't getting at school. One of those things ended up being a financial literacy understanding and background. And so that's what was my first prompt, is to try to give them tools that they can use for later on in life.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And it's so funny how so often people share stories here where they have something that they know they need to do and they very much are like, nope, not doing it. And I have the same story. Nope, I'm not doing it. I don't want to teach anything. I'm not going to be a teacher because, I can't follow the obvious path. And yet you end up right back where
Right
you're
back
supposed to be because
every
that's where
time,
you're supposed
every
to be.
time.
Every time, exactly. Yeah. So, what habits do you feel it's important to teach our children regarding money? What are the best things for them to learn?
What I learned during those times is that they needed a model to follow.
Mm.
Necessarily, they weren't necessarily getting that when they were in the home. And those, so the first thing was like teaching them about going out to earn money, or going out to do things to make sure that they can secure their home, their cars, or the things that they were going to need in order to function in life. And so we started out with, and some of what's in the book is about how do you start that out. And you start with chores. In the home, you start with chores, teaching them how to do things in order to turn into something else. Because after all, that's what entrepreneurs are about. You start something and then you turn it into a business, or you turn it into something else. And to let them see that that was the essential part of starting a business, is it's just at their hands, things that they could do daily, something that's within their reach daily can build wealth for them later on in life. And so teaching them those things. So we had jobs and chores around the center that we gave them credit for. And so they were able to see that how this worked and how this was in action and how they could capitalize off of it. And I in turn encouraged them to go home and try that at home so that they could kind of mimic what they were doing there, and they could take that to their homes and have it done there as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What a great idea to implement that with all of the kids that you had every day with you, of and keeping it simple, because I think sometimes we feel like money is really complicated. So we're not sure about how to talk to kids about it because we think, oh, it's complicated, they're not going to get it. But when you break it down into something like, let's do what you can, which is a great message for all of us. What can you do? Well, I can clean this up. Okay, perfect. Now you can earn something for that. Yeah, what a great way to do it. What else? How can we teach our kids to make talking about money a little easier?
When we talk about, first we earn money and then wise spending. So we talked about need versus want. You can always want something, but do you necessarily need it? And so going through setting up something like we would have a carnival or something, and they had the option of daily maybe going to our little candy store to buy something. Well, at the end of the month, if they didn't have the money on their books in order to go to the carnival, then they have to ask mom, or they're sweating it out or trying to kind of be stressful for them, as opposed to the ones who know, I'm going to save mine till later on to go to this big event or whatever. They were, felt better about their spending habits as opposed to that every day just had to have. And so over a period of time, you were able to see that they were able to make choices about, hey, do I really need that? I want it so bad. Or else they were kind of calling their parents when their parents got there to get the candy store and keep their own things that they've earned from us. And you could see the light bulb going off after we were doing it. And money habits are you have to practice them just like anything else. It's a habit. If you don't know how to do it or don't know what it is, you're not going to make it a part of your everyday life. And so having that in place this is how you earn and this is how you spend wisely. They were always, and they would come back and tell me things like, you know what, I wanted in school this, but I didn't get it. I saved my money. So making those lessons hit home is what is going to help them, be far better off later on down the line. I had seen so much of the adults not doing those things, and so the whole thing was about how can children learn what their parents don't know. And so that was my go-to, and like, okay, I got to do something. And at the time, I was, I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my dad always talked about Black Wall Street, and I had learned a little bit about Black Wall Street. At the time, I had taken a course about Black Wall Street, talking about what happened, how they were able to be self-sufficient. And so I said, perfect story, because they taught their kids how to do that. So it was generational, and building wealth for their families. And so I took that concept, and that's what I started using. Really, it's like, hey, this is what was and what can be again. And so we use that as a model to teach our kids in the center how you can do this, how this picture could look different for you in the future.
Right. So I'm really loving this concept that you were teaching so young of delayed gratification. There have been multiple studies that show kids who are able to delay gratification and plan for something in the future, where I'm not going to buy the candy today because I know the carnival's coming up and I want to get, snow cones or play the games or whatever's happening at the carnival. That translates to work ethic. It translates to higher test scores. It translates to better grades. It's just one of those things that will stay with them forever. It translates to having more money in retirement, that being able to wait as a 4-year-old and not eat the candy instantly makes you retire with more money in 60 years later or whatever it is. It's really amazing that you were able to teach that. And I love what you pointed out of, how do you teach something to kids that their parents don't know? How do they learn that skill? if their parents haven't learned it first. So beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about Black Wall Street and how that worked. Not everybody knows the story, especially when we have listeners that aren't from the Tulsa area. They might not be familiar with this concept. So kind of teach us how that, what was that founded on? How did it work? What was the concept there?
Well, this year, June 1st will mark the 100-year centennial of when that community was burned down. In 1905, there was a man by the name of O.W. Gurley who came to Tulsa. He was able to buy land that was designated insignificant, so to speak. Uh, it was only to be sold to Black individuals. And so he came.
So let me just pause you there. So insignificant means everybody else didn't want it.
Basically didn't want it,
Okay.
didn't think it was worth anything.
Okay.
So okay, we'll sell it to this guy over here. It's not
Right.
it's not going to do anything. And so Jim Crow laws were in place back then, and so he, just like a lot of other people, were trying to free themselves from the segregation of a lot of the states. And so people came here in abundance to try to free themselves from that and be affluent like they wanted to be. So he started that area, that community, with just one business, and it grew from there as they came. He housed them. You know, entrepreneurship was a big part of that. Everybody may have not come here with a business, but they were able to be groomed and end up having their businesses. And so what happened is because they couldn't spend their dollars outside of their community, it ended up being a self-sufficient community with churches, businesses, restaurants, anything that you could need, library systems that could function as a community. And the dollar turned over 36 to 100 times is the report in that community before it ever left the community. And so they were able to be wealthy. They were millionaires. And for them at that time, in early 1920s, the early 1900s, for Blacks in the United States to be in that position, that's what happened. And it was, a lot of racial tension back then. And so what happened to the destruction was basically they were looking for a reason to destroy that community because they were pretty jealous of these people who they felt like shouldn't be living in this manner. They were living good, just living like everybody else. There were lots of millionaires in that community. And so a situation happened to where they ended up burning it down. And that's how that happened. But the whole thing is how they functioned and operated was that they would teach each other how to be affluent with the earning, saving, and spending wisely, and building their businesses. And you help me, I help you. You buy from me, I buy from you, and it functioned that way. And they were able to build and have some good lives in there.
Right. Yeah. I feel that's an important lesson for any community that feels they are marginalized or in some way not being treated equally, is to really support each other's businesses and efforts and learning and all of that kind of thing, because it really does work. It really does
Yes, it does.
build the
Yes, it does.
community.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it really does. All right. So I guess we've kind of covered a little bit, but what kind of impact do these money habits have on our children's lives in the future? And then if you have any other habits to share that you used to teach, definitely share those.
Well, the impact that they have on the future is, again, with learning the habits, learning the principles. And you're, I think, close to my age, and I'm half a century, I'm glad to say. So
you're right, I'm getting there.
Half a century, I'm glad to say. But I mean, just think about the habits that you have. How long does it take to get a habit or learn how to function in a particular way? Getting those habits and keeping them and building upon them later on is going to help you get that house. It's going to help you build that retirement fund. It's going to help you go on the trips that you like to go if you have a family. It's going to help you experience life. It's a tool that you can use in order to make your life a little bit more exciting, as opposed to not having any options at all when you don't put those things in place, when you spend all the money. One thing that I learned is that people that have jobs have jobs, yes, but if they're not investing, there were some of the other things that we talked about. We talked about investing their money and how they go about having a savings account for wants. I want this dolly. Well, this doll is over here, but you might also be given to, we talked about giving. You give so much to people who are in need as well. So giving, wants, and then actual needs and actual savings. So you had like four pots that, hey, this is where your dollars are going, and you watch them grow that way. And so at that point, when you watch them grow, you can then make decisions on what it is that do. I really, because by the time they save for it, they want something else. And so again, the delayed gratification, if you have to wait on that, is generally something that you end up not really wanting. It looks good because because it comes on the television, that's what I want. Yeah, it looks real sparkling. Oh, yeah, that's what I want. But then when it comes down to it, it's like, I really don't need that. And so teaching those kids those habits and those four dimensions of the things that they need to do in order to build. We couldn't get into compound interest. That was a little bit too much for them at the time. But teaching them those basic concepts. And to this day, I still run into those students. They're like, remember you taught us about this? I do this. Matter of fact, it was one young man who came to fix on my garage about a month ago. And I looked, he's an entrepreneur. He has his own business.
Nice.
That was great.
And he was in your.
Yes, he was one of my kids.
One of your kids, he was in your center.
I was just like, wow, that's awesome. And so just, you never know the seeds that you plant for those students, how far they're going to go. You water them while they're with you, because after age 12, I had to kick them out.
Right.
So just planting those seeds for the kids, and just like, moms and dads, they plant those seeds with their kids, and you want it to grow. It sticks for the most part, but when they start making that money and doing the things that they do in life, some of those lessons come back around. It's like, okay, I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this. She taught me how to do this. And so that was one of the big things that did carry over into those adult lives of those children.
Mm-hmm. That is one of those amazing things that I think a lot of us don't realize how much kids are retaining. They are just absorbing everything we say and everything we do, and all the things we don't say, they still pick it up. They still figure it out. And it sticks with them. So, right? Even the things we don't want to have stick with them.
Most definitely.
Most definitely. So it's really choosing what we want those messages to be. And I love that point that you made about, if we wait a little while to get something because we have to go through the process of saving for it, sometimes we realize that's not really the thing I wanted, or that's not important to me anymore, or it's not aligned with my values, and I don't know why I was saving for that in the first place. Whereas when we impulse buy, we end up with a lot of stuff that maybe we really didn't need or didn't even want. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit
thing
about.
That we did do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll say one thing we did do also with that was we did garage sales. Oh. Like the kids brought their items in, they got the profit from it. So we let them see that the things in their home that was no longer so-called of value to them, or they were going to have outgrown it, or things of that nature. We had garage sales, and they were able to profit that way as well.
I like that. Yeah, teaching them how to run a little store, little mini store. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, the book is called Buck and Penny, and I'm just going to kind of show it to you.
Oh,
They're cartoon characters, and I thought the information would go over well better with it being cartoon characters and you talking about money for children. And it went over very well with the kids, and they were more receptive of it, and even introducing it to younger kids, like ages 5, 6, 7. They were more receptive because it was a cartoon character, and if we all know about kids, if it's cartoon character, they're more apt to listen. And using the cartoon characters to exemplify, hey, they're doing this. This is what I want to do. And the storyline in the book is all about generational wealth. The characters in the book are really like the 4th generation of wealth. And so the storyline takes them through the process of learning what it is to earn, learning what it is to spend wisely, learning what it is to set up a budget. We talk about budgeting in there as well, and then also giving. And so it just walks them through, this is what you do with money, and this is how you retain it, and this is what our family was about or is about. And so it was generational, and the kids were excited to learn these things because it was like a rite of passage. And so my whole thing is about getting back to the rite of passage. We don't hear that a lot nowadays. That's almost like something in a foreign, in a book somewhere. But the rite of passage, meaning financially, the rite of passage to go that route, to learn these things, to get the things that you want, not only for you, but for for your children, for your children's children. And so building it up, so learning those things and not just getting passed on. Some people inherit wealth, but do they get to keep it? Or does it get to really do what it needs to do? Or is it able to be impacted for the next 5 generations? But learning those things in a rite of passage, to learn those things, those habits, and to implement them every day is definitely what I consider a rite of passage. But the book is kind of like a rite of passage to get to this thing over here called wealth.
Yes. And that concept that you brought up is so important, of not just creating generational wealth in the parents or grandparents created some money to pass on, but creating generational wealth in the parents and grandparents created money to pass on and taught the next generations how to manage it, how to use it, how to earn more, how to spend, how to give, so that they could continue to repeat that pattern.
Yes, most definitely. That's very important, and it's just how it works. It's how it's supposed to work.
It's how it's
In my
supposed to
opinion,
work, not always
it's
how it
supposed to work.
happens.
No,
So
it's supposed to work. So just putting that in place, and my family didn't. I don't come from a affluent family. However, learning the principles can change that trajectory of anybody's life. Learning, not only learning, but implementing those principles and those habits can change a life.
right. Yeah. And that keyword, implementing, you can't just learn it and then forget it. You
No,
have to learn it and reprogram your habits to do.
yes, you do.
Yeah.
That's
Not
not
easy, but it can be done.
It can be done. It
Yeah.
can be done. It can be done.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of this.
Most definitely. Anytime. I love to be back. This is
Awesome.
what this is wonderful.
Yeah. Ramona can be reached via email at ramonalrogers5@gmail.com. Her book, Buck and Penny, is available on her website, buckandpenny.com. Thank you as well to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. This show is sponsored by Serenity Financial, a Five Rings financial agency specializing in financial education, life insurance with living benefits, and guaranteed lifetime income. Be sure to follow MoneyHeart on social media at MoneyHeart Show and on our website, moneyheartshow.com. Ramona, do you want to give today's money mantra?
Well, the one that I like to use is start today. Do not wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow may never come, but start today, and then believe that you can do it. Develop the good money habits that you learn about, and then take action every day to secure your future.
I love it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.